Yes. Well, welcome everyone to this morning's Sunday Forum. My name is Rebecca Miller and I'm a member of the Sunday Forum Committee. And just as a reminder, our Sunday Forums are opportunities for conversations about faith and life. And the committee seeks to provide a thoughtful and welcoming learning environment for members and friends of Plymouth. And we welcome anyone that's here remotely as well. For those of you on Zoom, if you have a question, please type your questions in the Q&A, as well as any tech support needs. And your question will be answered. Thank you to Alex Johnson up in the balcony for his assistance with our many audiovisual needs. And our guest this morning is Kellie Kish, who she just said she's here to, talking trash apparently draws a big crowd. And Kellie's the recycling coordinator for the city of Minneapolis, a position she's held for 9 years. And what does that mean as a recycling coordinator? She educates residents on waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and organics. She leads the city's zero waste program efforts. She assisted in the development of ordinances, the Green to Go ordinance, as well as the Bring Your Own Bag. And she oversees the city's container rental program, and she's responsible for enforcement of the city's multi-unit recycling ordinance. And she's on the board of directors of the Minnesota Composting Council, participates in several local, state, and national waste, recycling, and composting committees. And then today she's talking about waste and especially about plastics. So welcome, Kellie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. And as I said, I'm happy to come back anytime to talk about any number of waste reduction, reuse, recycling, composting initiatives. Environmental, I'm not as great with all of the environmental themes, but I have a learning, I have an inability to stop learning. So I am reading things all the time, trying to, stay as up to date as possible. So that when I am out and about, I can answer questions that anybody has. But today, have been asked to talk about plastics. And I do believe that several members or folks in this room took Hennepin County's Stop or Plastic Free Challenge. So you've probably already learned a couple tips and tricks on some of the issues with manufacturing of plastics, recycling of plastics. And I'm going to kind of go a little bit more into the what can and can't be recycled and why side of things. And then share a couple other ideas that you can have things, reduce your use of single-use plastics and then get items that you do have reused. So if you have any questions, do we want to hold them till the end or kind of raise hands in the middle? That's one thing we didn't cover. If you have questions as they come up, I guess let's answer them right away because then you might forget like me. All right, so getting started. There we go. First, I'm going to talk about where our waste goes. So many people think that trash goes to a landfill. And in Minneapolis, that is not the case for anything that is in our residential carts at our homes. It's often not the case for any businesses, schools as well, because the Hennepin waste to energy facility is located so close. So transporting waste out to a landfill is just, it's more costly. It adds additional trucking. So pretty much all of the residential garbage in the city is going to that waste to energy facility where it is burned to generate energy. All of the recyclables in the city go over to the little blue dot, which is Eureka Recycling. They are one of 3 major recycling facilities within the city of Minneapolis itself, and one of about 7 in the Twin Cities metro region. And what I'm going to talk about of why this is or is not recyclable is going to be the same for all of those major recycling facilities. So if you don't live in Minneapolis, you don't have city pickup service, say, Waste Management, Republic, Aspen, someone else picks up your recycling, the general guidelines are going to be the same no matter where your recycling is going. Other couple dots, not really going to talk much about today. South Transfer Station is the residential drop-off for extra garbage, building materials, scrap metal appliances, those types of things. If you have a city service, you can use that facility at no cost through our voucher program. And then all of the organics and yard waste, city trucks bring that to the purple dot, which is the Malcolm Transfer Station. It's located right by, right kind of behind the Surly Brewery there off of University and 280. And I will just side note, if you have any smells when you're in that area, it is from the spent brewing grains. It is not from the transfer station. And at that transfer station, the organics and yard waste are loaded into semi-trucks, separate semi-trucks, and the semis then go down to the green dot, which is SET's commercial composting facility in Rosemount. And again, reason that we go to a transfer station is we don't want all of our little city trucks driving all the way out to Rosemount. So they go to a transfer station where it's put again in a semi-truck, and then that bigger truck with the larger volume drives the farther distance. Yes?
Are you still chopping compost and bagging it and selling it at hardware?
So the city, after we get the organics over to SET, they technically own it. We do get 600 cubic yards of finished compost back each year to give to community gardens in the city at low or no cost. SET has been working on a bagging operation, but they do not currently have it available in local stores. That being said, you can go down to SET's facility and purchase bulk compost. I do it once a year, and honestly, I do it mostly in the fall because I like to do a full-on top dressing of my lawn each fall, and a pickup truck worth of compost, or if you want to get like a rain garden blend or a raised bed garden blend, they have all of that down there, is only about 20 to 25 bucks for a pickup truck worth. So if you're going to a hardware store and buying, 4 bags for 10 bucks, that's going to fill, like maybe a kiddie pool. It is worth the drive down to get the much bigger volume for a lower cost. And then you're also supporting the local program. But we do support and want to help SET get more material bagged and in our local stores so that folks can actually purchase it. And I will do one other caveat here. The reason we don't want to give away compost for free is because then it devalues the product. And if you can get it for free and you can always get it for free, you're never going to be willing to pay for it. And that doesn't help the industry grow. And it essentially, says that there is no monetary value to this wonderful soil amendment that's being created from the organics. So recycling, the statistics are going to be for those with city pickup service. So recycling is not mandatory. It is voluntary. 97% of our customers have recycling carts. And unfortunately, with the pandemic and our inability to be out and about doing so many of these community events, we have seen contamination increase in a bit. We were talking a little bit earlier about the multi-sort program, and it was a lot more difficult to kind of hide things in those individual bags with the individual materials than it is to hide things in a recycling cart. So again, mostly going to talk about plastics today, but the key things for containers in general, if it came from your kitchen, bathroom, laundry room, and it is a plastic 1, 2, or 5. Don't worry, I'll give you a nice reminder on how to easily remember that here in a minute. It likely can go into your recycling cart. For our papers, it's only paper that has not come into contact with food. So down here, I have these takeout boxes. These are going to have food residue on them, which immediately makes them not recyclable. Then there's a question of compostability. That's a talk for a different time, but I will go into that a tiny bit here on what you need to look for compostability of papers as well. And then things that obviously should never go in our recycling carts, the biggest problem items, plastic bags and film, scrap metal, talk about why that one's a huge problem. Electronics, many of which include batteries, which can and are starting fires on at least a monthly basis at the recycling facility. Anything that's too big or anything that's too small. So all of the recycling facilities in the Twin Cities are only designed to be able to sort out food, beverage, laundry, bathroom containers, and then our papers that have not come in contact with food. All right, so moving on to plastics. I kind of already covered most of this, but there's some tricky ones in here. So 1, 2, and 5. I'm going to skip ahead and then come back to the slide for our easy to remember thing. Actually, no, I'm not. First of all, everybody put a hand up. Now put your middle finger and your ring finger down. This is the I love you sign in American Sign Language. Counting from your thumb, you have 1, 2, and 5. So that is now your easy way to remember which plastics can go in your recycling cart. And look, ta-da, it's right there. So now the quick thing on number 3s. What the heck are number 3s? Number 3 is PVC. It's going to be PVC plumbing fixtures, mostly that pipes, really thick piping. It's going to be things like shower curtains. So in the realm of food, beverage, laundry, bathroom, it doesn't really exist. So if you keep food, beverage, laundry, bathroom, you may not even need to remember the numbers. The one place that number 3 does really come into effect in our like daily-ish lives is going to be this super zip sealed stuff that you need a scissors to open. And then you almost always end up cutting yourself still trying to get whatever's in there out. So these, and they're often not labeled. So this was I don't even know what it was, but things like a carabiner or a flash drive or things like that would come in this super sealed plastic packaging. We can pass it around if we want, but just note that that is not going to be an item that's recyclable. Number 4s are mostly plastic bags and film. In the food, beverage, laundry, bathroom category, the only places I have ever found number 4 bottles are going to be a Honey Bear or I've only found one of them and it was like 2 years ago, so it might not even exist anymore, but a squeezy mustard that looks like the barrel. So those are the only 2 places I've really seen number 4 containers. With our plastic bags and film, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second on which ones can and can't go to plastic bag drop-offs or recycling. There are a plastic 6 and 7, but again, easy. I love you sign 1, 2, 5. That's all you need to remember. 6s are the really, really tricky one. So 6s, anything that's made out of a number 6 could also be a number 1 or a number 5. So 6s are going to be all of our foam. Actually, that's not true anymore. They're now making number 5 foam too. And I want to go talk to those manufacturers and say, what are you doing? Things like berry cartons, berry or salad clamshells, they could be a 1, a 5, or a 6. And then things like cold cups, these could be a 1, a 5, or a 6. The one place where cold cups are always a number 6 are the single-use pretty ones that are a bit more durable. So if you're having like a backyard event or an event here and you guys want cold cups, go for the ones that unfortunately don't look as pretty, but at least then they can be recycled and made into something new. There is one other thing about number 6s and an easy way to kind of identify them. This is unfortunately a Girl Scout cookie tray and it is unlabeled. So this again, it could be a 1, a 5, or a 6, but number 6s are very, very crinkly in sound. So if it's unlabeled, well, one, if it's unlabeled, it's best to probably just throw it away. But if you do that and you hear that super crinkliness, it's going to be a number 6 and also belongs in the trash. Yes. It does. Yep, it is labeled. You can come look at all this stuff afterwards if you want. So with the cold cups, again, you can go to, whatever store you shop at, and even within the sleeves of like solo cups on the shelf, some might be a 1, some might be a 6. So make sure to check. Those are the types of items that you want to be checking. Yes. What does the number actually mean? Is this like different production style? Yep. So it is. It's essentially the chemical formula that makes that type of plastic. So the recycling symbol was never put on plastics to tell whether an item was or was not recyclable. Unfortunately, that's now how we have to use those numbers to educate people. But it does say that my salad clamshell is a number 1, and this is a number 1, or a water bottle is a number 1. So I can grind these up, melt them down together, and get the properties of a number 1 plastic and make something out of it again. Yes. Yep, they are. Yep. And in terms of like how clean does it have to be? if you have a dog, just give it to your dog. Dog's gonna be super happy. It's gonna be a super clean peanut butter jar. But really, if you can use a spatula or even a napkin and get as much of it out as you can, it's gonna be totally fine. The food residues in our containers doesn't affect the recyclability of the containers, but if it gets all over papers, it can affect the recyclability of papers. If you have a half full water bottle, that is not going to get sorted correctly. And I'll walk very briefly through the sorting process here in just a minute as well. Yes.
One more thing on food residues. Don't you have an issue rats or issue with food residues?
It can be, yep. So that is probably the number one reason to rinse containers out is one, it sits either in your house or out at your curb for, a week, week and a half. So it's kind of a pleasantry for you, reduced fruit flies, regular flies, squirrels chewing through containers, raccoons, all of that type of stuff. But the sorting facility, there are physical people working in conjunction with the equipment. So it does help make their working environment much better. I'll tell you, I've been to this facility. I've been to the facility tons of times, but going in the heat of summer with a whole bunch of non-rinsed out dairy containers and a sour milk smell is not a pleasant working situation. All right, hold on. You had yours up first. Yep. So hold on. That's why this is down here. Somebody asked if you could repeat the question. Oh, yeah. So the question was on, well, the one before this was on peanut butter jars and how clean do they need to be. This question is on lids and do lids need to be on containers or off? So this right here, oops, sorry. I don't know what was in it. I think it was like mayo or something, but think of this as like a standard plastic bottle. The lid and the bottle are two different types of plastic, unlike this guy where the lid and plastic are the same type. But you want to screw lids back on plastic containers. And the first thing they do when they recycle your plastic is they grind it all up. And this is going to be kind of hard to see. I don't know if someone wants to bring it back to the camera and shake it around in a minute. But you can see there's two different things happening in here. First thing they do when they recycle your plastics is they grind it all up and then it gets washed. So this is, they call it plastic flake. And this is it when it's in its ready to be washed state. And you can see the lid plastic and the bottle plastic naturally separate in that water bath. So they can keep them both separate and send all of the lid plastic on to be recycled over here, bottle plastic over here. If your lids are not on your containers, they're gonna fall through the sorting equipment and end up in the glass. And then the glass does not even look like glass. So when I said nothing can go in that's too big and nothing that's too small, essentially if it's less than like 3 inches in size, it's going with the glass. And because it's so dirty, that has to go to another facility with a whole other process just to clean the glass up so it can be recycled again. So always keep your plastic lids on your plastic containers. Metal lids, think like a super small metal lid from like a jar of hot sauce or like a beer bottle lid. If those lids are magnetic, you can put them inside a soup can, pinch the top shut so they can't come out, and then put that soup can in the recycling and it will be able to be recycled. Otherwise, keep all metal lids together. I've got a box in my basement of stuff to bring to Hennepin County's drop-off facilities. I go once a year. Keep all the little random metals together and they will take all the scrap metal as well. Aluminum foil. See, this is what happens. We start to talk about plastics and we go into, I love it. Question on aluminum foil. So aluminum foil, if it's, pretty much mostly clean, you wrapped, covered a lasagna pan, there's a little bit here and there. Totally fine. Crumple it into a ball. You want that ball to be at least 3 inches in size and it can go in recycling. If you used it to like line a baking sheet that you put in your broiler with like bacon or something on it, that's going to be too dirty and has to get tossed. And I'll talk about why putting it into a ball is important in just a second. So again, everyone's going to remember I love you sign 125, right? Share it with 5 of your friends. And then the other key thing here is plastics. If they are black in color, it doesn't matter what number it is, the facility is not going to be able to sort them out. So those all unfortunately need to go in the trash. So next time you go buy shampoo, if your shampoo bottle is black, it's time to rethink what shampoo you are buying. Or call the manufacturer and tell them to change into a different colored bottle. I will come right back to the why that is in just a minute here. So what makes something recyclable? We have to be able to collect it in some way, shape, or form. So whether that's through a pickup program or a dropout program, has to be able to be sorted. This is the problem with black plastics. And then someone has to want to buy it and turn it into something new. That is another problem with black plastics. And also the problem with number 3s and number 6s and number 7s. Well, I didn't even talk about number 7s. 7, literally the category is called other. It is anything that's not a 1 through 6. So it's car plastics, it's compostable plastics, it's combinations of 1 and 5 mixed in the same thing. Literally anything that's not a 1 through 6 is a 7. So really quickly, I'm not going to go through the whole recycling process because we could be here for another hour and a half just on that. But there's a series of conveyors. There's a lot of people sorting. There's magnets, there's reverse magnets that work all together to sort what's in your blue cart into about 15 different categories. Very first step is they pull out all of the things that never should have been put in the first place. There are always 2 people just pulling plastic bags and film and or other tanglers as they call them. So things that are long and stringy like holiday lights, garden hoses. It's garden hose season coming up. If you got a hole in it, put some tape on it. But no matter what you do, don't put it in the recycling. And then scrap metal. And I do briefly want to touch on scrap metal because people think just because it's metal, it's recyclable. Totally true. But our facility is only designed to sort out food, beverage, laundry, bathroom containers, and a pipe or a saw blade is not a food, beverage, laundry, bathroom container, or I'm completely doing things wrong if they are. So the big issue with scrap metal though is all of these conveyor belts. If you have even like a fork or a nail can cut one of those conveyor belts, and those belts can be $20,000 to $100,000 a piece. So even the smallest little metal things can have huge issues at that facility. I have this beautiful toaster that jammed the equipment for 20 minutes. It certainly does not look like a toaster anymore. But even small little things, I have a fork too, a fork that jammed the facility for a good 15 minutes. But yeah, so no scrap metal. And then after this pre-sort house where they're pulling all those contaminants out, the next thing that happens is there's these series of screens are called star screens. And I'll see if my cursor will work here. Their entire purpose is to separate our papers, our 2-dimensional items from our containers, our 3-dimensional items. So we want to leave our 3-dimensional things in a 3-dimensional shape to help with the sorting process. Now you can squeeze a milk jug, twist the cap on, fine. You don't want to like completely sheet pan flatten an aluminum can and then put it in there. So squeezing a bit's fine, but you don't want it to be pancake thin. So what happens here is the containers fall through in between these gears and the papers travel over. And then through different series of these screens, the spacing between gets smaller. They're different materials so they can catch the smaller and smaller papers and still sort the containers. What happens with our plastic bags is this image on the right. They get wound around in between those gears and then the containers can no longer fall through. So they start going over the top. Eureka Recycling and every recycling facility in the country, not just our area, has to shut their equipment down for multiple hours a day. And people have to physically climb in this equipment with box cutters to get all this stuff out. So it's dangerous and it's completely unnecessary if we can get that simple message of no plastic bags or film in our recycling out there. So that is a big issue with plastic bags. Again, magnets pull steel, eddy currents. They're essentially a reverse magnet. If you ever, to put the 2 negative ends of a magnet together and you feel that force, that's the force that's used to separate out aluminum. And then plastics are sorted one by hand. So like you may be pulling milk jugs, I may be pulling yogurt cups. And then they're also sorted using optical sorters. And what an optical sorter does is it shoots a laser beam and it can do about, I think it's about 2,000 a minute, shoots a little laser beam at everything coming across the conveyor belt. And the refraction back from that plastic, when it identifies what it's looking for, it uses a puff of air to kind of push it over the divide. The issue we have then with our black plastics is the color black absorbs that laser light. So the system is blind to the fact that there's anything there it's even supposed to be sorting. The other issue with black plastics, one, nobody wants to buy them because once they're dyed black, you can't really change the color. But they can be any number under the sun, 1 through 7, everything comes in a black plastic. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, you're gonna pull all the black plastics, because you would have to physically look at every single one of them, find out what number it is, sort it by hand, have enough to make a bale, have enough bales to make a truckload. And then again, nobody wants to buy it. So there's no point in trying to figure all that stuff out. This piece, I'm gonna throw this out one more time, is also here because it's flat. So our second step is papers from containers. So this is going to act more like a piece of paper than a container. Don't worry, there are options for these, for those of you who enjoy supporting our local microbreweries who use them. So I'm not going to go in any more into detail on recycling process. I'll make sure we get a link in the chat of a video you can watch to actually see it in action. And note that Eureka Recycling is coming out with a very brand new video, I believe this coming week, which has some of their new equipment, including a fun new robot. Anyway, so after that, everything's sorted back out. Our recycling gets put into bales. Bales get sent to various markets. What happens to recycling? There's a lot of national stories recently talking about, recycling doesn't work. Everything's going to China. There's no reason for me to do this. Nationally, some of those stories are not lying. They are true for certain communities. For us, being in the middle of the continent, it never made sense to ship things to a port to get it to go overseas in the first place. There are a lot of local facilities right in our area that will use our materials and make them into something new. Eureka Recycling really prioritizes local markets because it provides, you're reducing all of the environmental impacts due to transportation. You're providing local jobs, which then is also supporting our local economy. So 100% of recyclables that leave Eureka's facilities stay within North America. A couple items go up to Canada, which is so far away. And every once in a while, something will go down to Mexico. Sometimes they'll ship some paper down there. And really the only reason they do that is you don't want all your eggs in one basket, because if that basket has a fire, you need to have somewhere else for it to go. So they maintain relationships with different markets to make sure there's always somewhere for our stuff to go. So 100% North America, 90% within the upper Midwest, and then 80%, a lot of which are the plastics and like all of our paper, are right here in the state of Minnesota. So for our plastics, what happens? Standard plastic bottle, which is always the thing I never seem to have one of. But our number one plastics, maybe they're starting to get better at this, but maybe are made once back into another food or beverage container. Oftentimes they're downcycled into things like carpeting or carpet padding or clothing. Number two, so our milk jugs and laundry detergent, shampoo bottles, those are made mostly into plastic decking material. Let me back up here actually. Milk jugs that are like the translucent, the like clear ones, those have a higher value than anything with color because you can't take the color out of this, but you can add color to the clear. So the milk jugs are oftentimes actually made back into another milk jug, but all of the colored stuff goes into plastic decking. So by the yard, I'm sure you've all seen those commercials. Minnesota company, a lot of our number two plastics goes directly over to them. They'll make more durable plastics or like irrigation piping for agricultural sector. Number five, so our yogurt, sour cream, not ice cream, yogurt, sour cream, cottage cheese, those types of containers and their lids go into things like paint cans, more durable like tubs, and then they're also used in car parts. And then onto the fun of plastic bags. So plastic bags, again, never in a recycling cart. They can be recycled, and it's not just a plastic shopping bag. So the easiest way to tell which plastics can be recycled is if you take them and they stretch. And I'm stretching multiple layers so it's not working. So you can see how easily that stretches. As long as it's clean and dry, that can go to a plastic bag drop-off location. So bread bags, the wrap from around paper towel or toilet paper, all of that type of stuff, even Ziploc bags, they'll take those now. You no longer need to cut the zipper part out unless it has that like super hard little slider thing. The super hard slider thing needs to go in the trash, but Ziploc bags can go in. Again, note clean and dry. Those can all go to a drop-off location. The ones that can't, so again, looking for stretch, I get nothing here. So these types of bags, or if you buy like a salad that comes in a bag, or grape bags, chip bags. None of those have any stretch to them. Those unfortunately are all trash. Freezer bags. There's a couple places so a lot of plastic bags are made into more plastic lumber for either chairs or decking material. Trex is probably the #1 company that uses most of the plastic bags from the region, and I believe their facilities in like Indiana. So it's still fairly local. But there's a ton of plastic from all of those things. Even if you don't get plastic bags at the grocery store, you can't avoid getting them in certain products. Bubble wrap, yes. Bubble wrap you can bring to a drop-off location. You don't necessarily need to pop the bubbles. Now, if you're getting a shipping envelope that has like the manila outside paper, that's going to be a no-go because it's a multi-material. Or they're now like coating them with like Mylar, the silver shiny stuff too. Those are a no-go. Yes. There will not be a plan in Minneapolis to take the plastic bags. There are plenty of drop-off locations, and we do not need another truck going down alleys just to pick up plastic bags and film. They will never be able to go in recycling carts because we see how they mess up the recycling system. But if they go in a cart, in a truck, the truck compacts, it's going to be way too messy, and they're going to be too dirty to then be recycled. So all of the bags that Eureka has to cut off the equipment end up going to the trash because they're too dirty at that point to do anything else with them. Yes. Yep. I mean, it's preferred if you can remove the label, but just like I showed, I don't know if you were here when I showed that, but the float sink of the different plastic types, all that stuff gets ground up too, and there is a washing aspect, so some of it will come out, but it is preferred if you can get rid of it to take the label off, plastic shipping envelopes. All right, I'm gonna keep on because I don't even know where I'm at time-wise. Okay, I think I'm still doing good. All right, Pak Tech, I talked about these. There is many microbreweries in the area. This map shows them. That will take them for recycling. So just like I keep, or reuse, some of them will reuse them. So just like I keep a box in my basement for all my stuff and my little random scrap metal bits to go to Hennepin County once a year, I just set these either in that box or next to it. And then whenever I eventually, at some point, I assume I'll go to one of these places, I'll bring them all in just like I bring my plastic bags to a store for drop off when I have those as well. I shouldn't say that. I don't get plastic bags, but like I said, we all get plastic film because you can't buy tortillas that don't come in, and I like me some tacos. So anyway, so there are local places that will take them. It's kind of hard to find this website. If you go to the city's disposal guide, which I'll show you in a bit, I believe it does have this on it. So you can actually find it easier than remembering that this is called a Pak Tech, because that's totally common language to everyone, I know. So problematic packaging. This is some of the newer fun stuff we're finding out there. So we've got, this is my favorite. It's, I like to call it PET fluff. It looks like insulation. It comes in a lot of meal delivery kit boxes. It says giant recycling symbols on it. Number one, it says recycle me in your plastics bin, put me in your curbside bin. Nope, can't do that. One, flat, it's gonna act like a piece of paper. Two, that plastic fluff is not recyclable with your rigid plastics. So if you have this stuff, try and reuse it. And I know like, FedEx stores often will take things like bubble wrap and packing peanuts for people to reuse when they're packing items. So I assume they would probably also take some of this stuff. But again, just because it's got a recycling symbol on it does not mean it's recyclable. We've got this Mylar with a foam in it. We've got, this is recycled denim, and you've got 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 recycling symbols on this packaging in the upper left-hand corner, also not recyclable. We've got our Mylar bags that are lined, or Mylar lined bubble wrap, not recyclable. This purple carrot, another meal delivery service, they're kind of a pain in my butt right now because every single one of them is lying about something in their packaging. Purple carrot, this is like super used up paper fibers. Eureka has talked to Westrock over in St. Paul, right off of Crete and Vandalia of 94. They say that they can take it, but they can't guarantee it's actually being turned into anything. And my assumption is those fibers are way too short. They're floating at the top and getting skimmed off and thrown away. So again, if you can find a reuse option, that's the best bet. And then this stuff in the middle, you're starting to see a lot more places, is also filled with paper fluff. That is going to be the same thing. Westrock will say they can take it, but they can't guarantee any of it's being made into new paper except this paper exterior. So again, find a recycling option or a reuse option, or throw it in the trash. Do not compost either of those items. So real quick, in 2018, before we debuted our new recycling tags, which I know none of you have received one. So we went from a very difficult to understand, heavily text-based one to a picture-based one, to make it easier to kind of transcend some languages and maybe have people actually look at it, because if it's just a giant thing of text, nobody wants to read it anyway. Before we did that, we had interns go out and actually look in recycling carts, kind of do some identification of what they're seeing. And this is just a top-down view, because for safety reasons, we don't want anyone digging in carts. But you can see here the impact of plastic. Plastic bags, wrap, and film, 30% on its own. Bagged recycling, so recycling in a plastic bag, is another 10%. So 40% of recycling contamination is just on plastic bags and film. Then you can throw in either, some of the compostable items, like someone threw a compostable cup in their recycling, or some plastic lined paper items like the food to-go containers. And then there's another whole grouping. It's not everything in those groups, but some of those are going to be related to the plastic components. And then of course our clothing. There's lots of plastic in clothing these days, and diapers. So there you go. Almost all of this is plastic. Hennepin County sorted Minneapolis residential trash back in 2016. 41% of that is trash. A lot of that trash is going to be non-recyclable plastics. So now what is kind of, the impact of this material? We know what we can recycle, what we can't recycle, but going on to the manufacturing, and I'm definitely not a huge expert on plastic manufacturing. I know enough to be slightly dangerous, but not super huge into each individual step. But 99% of all plastic containers are a byproduct of fracking. And fracking is most commonly performed in low-income BIPOC communities. The health impacts of being near these facilities are very/never shared with the general public. Entire giant cities like Houston, Texas, have had shelter-in-place warnings because of fires at some of these refineries nearby. There is a whole area in Alabama called Cancer Alley because of the number of these refineries and the high occurrences of not only cancer, but asthma and other respiratory illnesses. And I learned something from NPR that I didn't know, and I don't think many people in the industry really even know, just a couple weeks ago, that the refineries in that part of the country cannot refine the oil coming from the Gulf of Mexico. And they're importing oil from Canada and Europe to be refined at those facilities. And the stuff that they're pulling out of the Gulf is going to other facilities that can actually take that specific type of crude oil that they're getting out. So I just learned a whole other thing, and I was like, what? And I had a call with some folks from the Sierra Club, and two of the people on that call were like, I heard the same thing on NPR and I didn't know it either. So the more and more we can avoid this material, the more we can contact manufacturers, contact elected officials to say, we need to make this change, not only for the planet and the mining of this stuff, but also the health of the people who are living near these facilities, and our own health. There's, statistics out that whether you have plastic, like you use single-use plastics in your daily life or not, the average person is consuming a credit card's worth of plastic a week. And it's in dust, it's in the air, it's in all of us. Yes. Oh, yes, sorry, yep. Yes, and the fracking, I'm sorry, now I'm confusing two things here, yes, but all of the fracking down in Cancer Alley is going here, and the cracking in the Gulf is going overseas. Thank you. Anyway, plastics, no good. And especially foam. So Minneapolis Green to Go ordinance does not allow foam, and it does not allow the number 6 hard plastics for food establishments because styrene, this stuff is called polystyrene. Styrene is a likely known human carcinogen. So if you find any restaurants using number 6, either foam or not, tell 311, don't tell me, because I will just tell 311. And they will get the appropriate health inspector over to let that business know that they're using a non-acceptable material. They will, however, let them use up what they purchased, but then go back and verify that they have switched it over to a number 1 and number 5 or a compostable alternative. It is just, St. Louis Park has a green to go type ordinance. They call it the zero waste packaging ordinance, and the city of St. Paul adopted one that I believe started to be enforced January 1st of this year. They delayed enforcement because of the pandemic. I should also note that because of the pandemic and supply shortages, some places are maybe not complying this week or next week, or 3 weeks ago, because they just can't get stuff in. So there is some leniency happening because of the supply chain as well. So how do we reduce what's in the trash? Personal choices. I love my reusable water bottle. I love my reusable bags. Tell you one of my biggest pet peeves about people shopping is when they go to the grocery store and they put a red bell pepper in this produce bag and then a green bell pepper in this produce bag. And then sometimes when people get home, they just leave them in the produce bags and put them in their drawer, and that actually makes your food go bad faster. So you're gonna wash the bell pepper anyway, just skip the bag, just put it in the cart. Don't even need the bag, or get some of the, the fun reusable ones. Oh boy, I'm stuck. Fun reusable ones. I've got a couple other examples in my other bag over there. Note where you are shopping if they do tear weights. Some of them have tear weights on the bag, some of them don't. If you go somewhere where they don't have tear weights, avoid getting ones with these little hard plastic clicky cinchy things, because then you're paying for the weight of that hard plastic cinchy thing every time you buy something. You can get reusable zipper bags. This one actually doesn't work. I was told this brand doesn't work very well. I picked this up from my Buy Nothing group for as an example. I just use harder containers. You can get awesome things like bees wrap. I love to bring this because for anyone who hasn't used bees wrap, it's a wonderful thing. You can literally put a sandwich in it. It naturally sticks to itself. So eliminates essentially plastic wrap. Some of them do, and you can also make your own, and they last a while, but beeswax is naturally antibacterial. So all you got to do is rinse it off, let it dry, and you're good to go to use it again. What else do I have in here? Shopping bags, easy one. And then, get rid of all the bills coming to your house. That's not really a plastic related thing. But when you are shopping, buy durable items, buy something that's going to last a really long time, buy something you can repair. And then when you are done with it, even if you think it might be trash, try and see if somebody wants it before you throw it away, or recycle it, find a recycling drop off, etc. We did a study at the end of 2020 to see how COVID had impacted people's shopping disposal habits. I just pulled a couple of those results in. So since early on, we didn't really know how COVID was being spread, and a lot of people switched to grocery pickup service. We saw an across the board range on what was happening with single-use bags. So, some stores weren't allowing people to bring their own bag, which didn't make any sense to me because I'm the only person who touches my bag. So if it's a germ spreading thing by touching, you've touched this paper or plastic bag at the store, 4 other people touched it to get it here. So how is my bag more harmful to me than anyone else's? I actually used my bags throughout the entire pandemic. So some people, when they were doing grocery pickup, they didn't have a choice, paper, plastic. Some were saying I'd get pickup and there'd be 2 items in every plastic bag. So I ended up with 40 plastic bags just from one shopping trip. So yeah, bags were kind of been across the board. Some people switched to paper. Some other items, paper plates, we saw an interesting, some increase, some decrease. I kind of think of that I am home more, I can wash dishes, or I am home working with my significant other, 3 children were trying to school and there's no time to do anything. So we switched to paper plates over this time period so we could have some sort of sanity around the lunch hour. Same thing with some of the other disposable items. Again, a lot of concerns of how is this spread, etc. A lot of increase in takeout. We did see that of the people who took the survey, 88% of people would support a ban on restaurants from just providing silverware or condiments or straws unless requested. With Hennepin County, we worked with them to start encouraging businesses on their online ordering system to put a checkbox that says, I need silverware. So people would physically have to do something. They're actually taking that even further right now and doing a whole big business plastic reduction or food establishment plastic reduction campaign in the next couple of years. Same things with our napkins, paper towels, cleaning products. I can share the link if you guys want to see this full survey, because it didn't just focus on single-use items. It focused on all sorts of clothing and household goods as well, and also food itself. But the best part of the pandemic, in my opinion, because there has to be one positive thing, is that because people were home, they're much more aware of all the waste they create. And of the people who took the survey, they did report, really thinking if they needed something, actually kind of thinking more about what is the impact of getting this item to me, and then trying to donate, borrow. There was a lot more meal preservation or food preservation, a lot more home gardening, the return of victory gardens. So there was a lot of waste reduction positive outcomes in my mind that came from the pandemic. And I will say that was after the mass purge of 2020, because holy Hannah, did garbage weights go up like crazy in April and May. So what we did with the survey results is we wanted to help people maintain some of those behavior changes. So we created a Love Your Stuff campaign, which really tried to teach people to shop smart. So not just find the cheapest, but make sure you're buying from companies whose values you support, that provide living wage and healthy living or working environments for their employees, to love the stuff they have. You got a hole in your sock, darn it, or do repair the things you have, keep them as long as possible, buy quality, and then make sure or those two things together will help us in the end reduce waste. And there were sections on plastics, textiles, and food. Now some real quick resources. I got to see where I'm at. I'm probably going late. Sorry. So I said we updated the city's website. There's now this lovely new disposal guide where you can type in things. I like to use the example of cat because I'm a crazy cat lady. But if you type in cat, you get everything that has the word cat in it. So catalytic converter, magazines, and catalogs. Type in plastic and the list is like 72 items long. But each time you go in there, it'll tell you where it belongs, what to do, and a little bit of more information about that item. We also made the website a bit easier in terms of visuals with nice green check marks for yeses and nos. We started a Facebook group. I've wanted this for 4 years and I'm so happy I finally got it. But the best part about this is not only can we answer your questions, but your friends, family, neighbors can answer your questions when our office is closed. And instead of us replying to individual emails, we are now replying to the 800 people who are on this group. So many people are like, I didn't even know I had that question and it was answered here. And this is so great because I didn't know this. And that's what we want. We want people, like I said, people like talking trash, but this information only spreads as people share it with others, because our attention spans are so dang small these days that we can't say, don't put a plastic bag in your recycling cart. Like that's almost too long. But to go into it gets caught in the gears and they have to shut down and do all of this, like no one's going to pay attention to any of that type of messaging on social media, maybe even in emails. So the more that you talk to other people about it, the more that those types of messaging spread. And once people know the why, it's easier for them to remember yes or no. And again, they're fun, interesting facts. And I can talk about fun facts about recycling all day too. And this has not been updated. There's like 794 members when I looked yesterday. So well over 500 now. I might gotta go fast. Okay, faster. Garden tool swaps. Spring is here. If you have garden hoses that don't have hoses, flower pots, rakes, shovels, whatever you no longer want someone else to take, we've got garden tool swaps coming up here. There are 7 locations across the city. Last year we had 4 that we didn't really promote because we didn't really know what to expect. So now we're going crazy. We're promoting it and we hope to see all of you there. You do not need to bring anything to take anything. You do not need to take anything to bring anything. Again, ultimate goal is to keep things used. Buy nothing groups, if you are unaware of these, they are amazing and I love them. It is all free. There can be no money exchanged via any of these items. People can ask for things they need, like the aprons. They can say thank you for things they got, like the gate to keep their cat in their backyard, or they can give things like the shoes, water thing, and a book. Another fun thing on Buy Nothing is, again, if you think it's trash and you don't want it, see if somebody else does. That number 3 Mylar balloon went to 3 different houses in my neighborhood before it finally deflated. Art projects, things for canning, The disposable single-use containers have been going like hotcakes for people making meals for people experiencing homelessness. So just because you don't think it's something someone wants, give it a shot. Someone might want it. And then I think my last thing here is, it's Earth Day, or was Earth Day on Friday. Keep in mind, people like to pick up litter just around Earth Day, but we will provide you supplies. You can get these awesome concrete litter containers placed anywhere you want in the city for no cost. We'll provide you bags for them. By adopting the container, all you agree to do is take the bag out when full, put it with your own trash, put a new bag in it. Storm drains, every single storm drain in the city leads directly to a body of water. I guess there's now like a fun naming competition to name your adopted storm drain something silly. But you can adopt storm drains, and that means you agree to help keep that area clean and keep all of that litter from going down there and ending up in our waterways and ending up as microplastic. And that's it.
Wow. Excellent, Kelly. Your timing is amazing. Thank you so much.
And I can stay around if there are questions for a bit too.
Yeah. Alex, do we have to shut down Zoom? Okay. So if anyone has questions, you can ask them. Kelly's made herself available, but this is our official end to Sunday Forum. Thank you all for coming. And Kelly, thank you so much. And I also want to mention that next week, David Aston, who's a member of Plymouth, is our featured speaker for Sunday Forum. And he'll be speaking about his photography and his love for the environment and nature. And he's an incredible photographer. So I hope you can join us for that. Okay, questions, I guess.
And I will say, I don't think I brought enough, but I do have, for anyone who needs a reusable bag, if you don't need it, don't take it. I have some of these I Love Minneapolis recycling bags. And if people absolutely need them, I can get more this week and drop them off. Sorry, this one's never been opened, so it's gonna be a little pain for me. But the little pouch is sewn to the inside, so you can never lose it. And like I said, they say, I love Minneapolis recycling.